My name is Tribal Instincts, and today I am playing a bunch of tutorials so that you don't have to. I initially planned for this to be a review video. However, to be honest, after playing this, the only thing that I can say as a review is that it's awesome and you should get it. Okay, in all seriousness, well, that is actually pretty serious. If you are at all interested in Star Wars, or if you are at all interested in socially, engaging experiences, this is for you. I am sure there are other games out there, but I haven't played them. There is nothing that I have ever played that has been this critical for good, positive teamwork to exist. They have done an amazing job at this in making sure that every single role relies on the other role. There is no position in this game that is boring or that can just go and exist on its own. To be honest, I think the only thing that this game is really missing is player versus player and then other races, which this is Ubisoft, so I'm sure there's going to be some DLC in the future for that. Ubisoft, I will pay a lot of money. Please let me play on a Klingon ship. All right, so my Star Trek fanboyism is probably showing a little bit here, but to be honest, guys, I don't even care. I love this game. This is amazing. There are a few nitpicky things that I could say as just a general VR experience. For one, if you lean back or forward or left or right too far, then the game just blacks out. That's stupid. Just let me explore the ship. Let me get up and walk around my room if I need to. But honestly, that is probably my biggest gripe, is just not being able to get up and walk around these ships. God, I cannot wait for that to be a thing. Okay, enough of this. I can go on and on about how much I love this game. This, guys, is a video to help you avoid the somewhat tedious tutorials that are in the game. The tutorials are great, they have a lot of good value, but they do take quite a bit of time. So here is my attempt to break down each of those roles and give you the meat of what you need to know to jump into a game as quickly as you can. This is not a guide on how you play a mission. For that, you probably just want to play the game yourself, or if enough of you request it, I can do a video on that later on. This is just a breakdown of each of the individual roles. I'm going to put links in the descriptions for the timestamps for each of the start times, so if you want to get into just one single role, link in the description to help you out. All right, so let's start this off with engineering. Most people assume that engineering is the most boring role on the ship, and they're not completely wrong, but they're also completely wrong. During non-combat situations, there really isn't a whole lot to do for the engineer. However, once combat gets going, he is probably the most active person on the entire ship. Not only are you managing power distribution between engines, shields, and phasers, you also have to distribute the workforce to repair the ship in the event that you do actually take damage. In non-combative situations, however, you're pretty much just putting power into the engines and sometimes shields and engaging the warp drive. All right, here is the engineer's bread and butter. You have phaser range, engine power, and shield level. In all situations, you are responsible for making sure that the right subsystem has the right power at the right time. Failure to do so often results in the ship's death. Manipulating your console is fairly easy. You have a certain amount of available power that you can distribute to the different subsystems, and you just click on the various places to go through with it. Once you've allocated all of your available power, you can redistribute as you see fit. You'll notice the labels to the right of the power levels indicate how much effect that power level gives you. So for example, phaser range, if you maximize it, you're going to get 20-kilometer range. Engine power gives you a max speed of 5,000. Shield level gives you a max shield level of 5. In the event that 20 kilometers is an insufficient phaser range, you also have the ability of rerouting power. So for example, right now, if we don't need engine power, we can redistribute however we need to get us the maximum range. So now we have 26 kilometers as our maximum firing range. Now obviously there's a couple trade-offs to this. One, you reduce power to the system that you're routing power from, and also if you leave power routed for too long, that system will eventually overload, resulting in you having reduced power until the repairs that are forced upon you have taken place. Your other primary responsibility is making sure that your ship stays nice and pretty. As of right now, we have some damage to the scanners, so we have 3 different crew slots. We can pick one of these, put them over there. We can pick some of these, put them over there. So now we have repair going to the phaser banks and the scanners at the same time. Depending on which one you need more critically, you can assign them however you see fit. Your only other responsibility is making sure that you have power to the engines in the appropriate levels whenever you need to. So for example, if you need to use the impulse engines, there is a minimum required amount of 3,000 for impulse engines to go online. If you need to warp, you need at least 5,000 power. So in order to charge the cables, we need to reduce some power from phasers, put it up into the engine, and now we can charge engines. Nothing can happen until then, so in case something goes wrong, you can disengage it so that you can have access to your systems again. Once the warp core is charged, you have 30 seconds to make sure that Helm engages the warp drive. Otherwise, there's a timeout before you can actually use it again. Moving on to Tactical. Tactical's main responsibility is shooting stuff and scanning stuff. Shooting stuff! This part's fairly self-explanatory. You click on a target, and you're able to shoot it. Shooting stuff! Shooting stuff is fairly self-explanatory. You click on a target, and then you shoot it. Now, obviously, there's more to it than that. There are a few other things that you have to keep in mind. In the event that just shooting it is not enough, there are some cases where you might want to just disable the shields or just disable the engines. You have that option. So to do that, first we need to scan it. Once the scan is complete, you have access to target its individual subsystems. Now, before any of these can actually be attacked, you have to make sure that their shields are down. You have a couple different options to disable somebody's shields. One, you can just shoot at it, and that's one way. Here we have it. Down to 78%. Also, we have this nice distributed systems. This is not unique to the engineering role. However, before anybody can use it, engineering does have to scan the target. So in this case, I want to take out his shields. So I'm going to go into the subsystem. I'm going to click on the ship, and I'm going to isolate shield frequency. Now this will give us the option to target its weapons specifically. So in this case, we've isolated its shield frequency. We're going to disrupt it. And now we are going to fire at it. Its firing rate has been reduced. As soon as that countdown goes away, their shields are back up and running, and now you have to go through it the old-fashioned way. These take about 10 seconds or so for them to be armed. Once they charge up, you have access to 2 photon torpedo bays with a limited count of torpedoes in a mission. In this case, though, we don't really have to worry about it. We just want to shoot everything. It's important to note that photon torpedoes do not damage shields as much as you would like. In order to actually do any real damage, you need to fire your phasers until you've knocked out its shields. Once you have that, then you send out the big guns. There it is. Nearly done. Let's finish him off. His weapons are nearly gone. Let's just do the burst fire. Little more! Little more! Boom! In terms of firing, the only thing that the tactical engineer actually really needs to take care of is making sure that he is in range. This inner circle right here, this is your firing range. This outer circle is your scanning range. If your firing range is insufficient to hit the target, you either need to get Helm to take you over there, or you need to get engineering to boost the power so that you can hit it. And lastly, from a combat perspective, the most critical thing, making sure that your shields are engaged. It takes 10 seconds for those bad boys to spin up. If you are not ready, you're going to take direct hull damage, which is very, very bad for you. Lastly, for tactical is managing the transporter. Again, none of these systems here are exclusive to the tactical officer. Every single person has the exact same distributed systems. What is unique about tactical is the ability to scan. Before you can do any transportation, you must scan the ship. And of course, before you're able to beam anybody up, you got to make sure that your shields are down. Not great for combat situations, however, sometimes it is required. Once the shields are down, pick the target that you want to transport from, lock on, wait the lifetime or two for it to go through, and energize. And last of the button pushers, you have Helm. Helm is just driving the ship. This one's also fairly self-explanatory based off of the console itself. You have your reverse and forward positional thrust. Over here you have your left, right, up, and down. It is important to note that this is not actually tilting the ship up and down. It is actually just raising and lowering it on an axis. You have various forms of information on this. Over here you have the engine power. If you don't have enough engine power to, say, impulse drive or warp, you'll see it here. You need at least 3,000 for impulse, 5,000 for warp. This shows your current speed, maximum of 1,000. And again, if engineering gives you more power, you're able to go faster. Over here, you have your vertical position as well as your current heading. So if we turn the ship, we can change its heading. This is valuable if the captain tells you, go to heading 340. You also have information on targets that are selected. This neutral ship 1 has a distance of 5.1 kilometers and a heading of 307. That heading means that if you turn your ship to 307, you will be on a collision course. In a combat situation, your primary thing is to, 1, listen to your captain. He's going to make the calls. However, whenever you are trying to gun down a ship, it is important that you keep this target as close to end center of your ship as you possibly can. If it ever goes on the other back half of your ship, tactical will be unable to fire on it. Traveling within a system is fairly easy with the impulse page. Typically, you're going to have multiple systems, but in this tutorial, it's just this one. We're going to pick on that, pick the course. Wait for this to be ready. Once that's done, you'll go back to local. This is pointing to where you need to point the ship. So now we want to turn the ship. You also notice in the screen ahead, it shows you where you need to target. Nice and pretty. Once you're in position, you grab the throttle and engage. And the person bringing them all together is Captain. Captain's responsibility is keeping everybody on track. Captain has more information than anybody else. He's able to see what everybody is doing. Listen to your captain. The captain knows what he's talking about. If he doesn't, you're all going to die. So your left-hand panel has information related to the location of your ship and information about your surroundings. Starting from the one on your far right, you have your local menu. This is showing you a detailed readout of information that you have at your disposal in the local system. You're able to click on certain targets and you're able to see information. The information that you have here is identical to what Tactical has. However, you're able to see this and coordinate that with other information that you get from other parts of your ship. You also use this to give targets for your ship. So for example, if I want to go over here in a multiplayer route, I would say, hey, Ensign Rao, take us to that target. And he would engage. But in the single player, I'm just going to say approach target.
Aye, aye, Captain.
The second button is the impulse map. This shows you what options you have within your star system. So for example, if I wanted to navigate to an anomaly in Yeri's region, you can plot a course directly from here. And I can look at the center console, say prepare impulse. That tells the engineering station to raise power for the impulse engine. It also tells our Helm to move into position. Once there, we can either tell Helm verbally to engage, or in single player again, you press the button to engage. The third button over does the exact same thing, but at the warp level. So you can pick a systems and you can tell your crew to go there. The last button on your left-hand side allows you to change what shows on your view screen. Navigation, you can have your information reading out directly on there. It gives your entire crew something to look at. You're also able to change the view screen so it shows the outside of your ship, shows the target directly, magnifies on the target exclusively. Your right-hand panel has information related to your mission and the overall status of your ship. Button 1 has objective information. This will start blinking yellow whenever you have something new. Once you have your information up, you can click on an individual objective and it gives you details. This information is not visible to the rest of the crew. A lot of this information is hints and vital information that is required for your success. Now you have a couple options with this information. You could just relay it to the crew, or you can keep that information and sort of role play with it, because that is a lot of fun to do. Give your crew the information that they need to get the job done, but don't just itemize out the details that you see. The second button opens up the ship's status. This is almost identical to the information that engineering sees. However, you're able to coordinate this and remind him of things in case he is busy. In a combat situation, he is going to be all over the place. So having this up is critical while you're in combat. The third button on the right allows you to answer a hail if something comes up. You just press the button and then information comes on the display or in the speakers. And lastly, we have Red Alert. In a single player, this is critical because it allows, in one single button press, it makes Tactical get ready to fight things. It puts their shields up, it gets the phasers charged. It also gets engineering up with, the shields at the right levels. So Red Alert is critical in a single player. In multiplayer, it's more of a role-playing element. You're able to press the button and it's just sort of fun for the crew to go through with that. And lastly, unique to the captain's chair, you press up on the right D-pad to open up the command menu. In multiplayer, this doesn't do anything. However, if you have any AI components, then this menu is critical for telling the AI what to do. Once you've pressed up, you can look at any individual crew member and you get options related to theirs. So for example, if I need to tell engineering to increase power
to engines.
There we go. If I want to tell Helm to approach a target, he will move us towards it. Now looking at the center console is absolutely critical because this has a lot of information that's not specific to one role necessarily. We have options to analyze target, which will do multiple things. It will tell Helm to move towards it. It will tell Tactical to start scanning it once it's in range. Warp and impulse commands are also here. You won't be able to do this through individual commands to any of them, so you have to look at the center console in order to access this menu. And lastly, as the captain, if you do have an AI component, you're able to look at them and take over. All right, I think that pretty much sums it up. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If I missed anything, please drop me a comment letting me know what I missed, and I'll either try to answer you, or if there's enough requests for it, I can do a video follow-up to get more in-depth on any of the roles or anything else that you guys need. All right, but for now, I'm done here. Guys, thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, please hit the like button below. If you didn't, hit the downvote button and tell me what I can do to make them better. And if you want to see more, hit subscribe and the bell icon, and I'll see you all in the next video. Bye-bye.